What's up guys, ZiSotto here, and today we're taking a look at the patch notes for patch 5.15 Royal Champion. Along with this patch, we also had the announcement for the Ares Tier 5 skin being the winner of the Odyssey, as well as some more Hera leaks, or rather a card art for her. You can see that in the live viewing of the patch notes version towards the end. Let's first take a look at the skins and then mostly focus on the balance as usual, and obviously the new adventure that we're getting. The first skin is Royal Champion Village. You can see that one here. Really cool in my opinion. Obviously a big fan of a Village, so a big fan of this skin too. Especially the Suku model here is extremely cool and is voiced by the voice actor of Vegeta, so it's got it all. It also even has a special emote that you can use while on Suku and whatnot, so really cool. Then we have a new Agni skin, a Cthulhu Agni skin, where he's like half transformed and all his abilities have tentacles, also pretty cool. We have Janus Warp Tech skin. Yeah, not my style. Yeah, very, very futuristic Janus skin, basically. You know, for those who like it. Then we have a Khajiit Bastet skin, basically Shadow Claw Bastet. Very dark, smoky effects, a lot of the typical high-res black and red style going on, but it looks pretty cool. Decent voice as well, so I like that one. Then we have Poseidon Riptide. Very cool skin in terms of animations and color, especially. It has a more cyan color style, and you have his abilities here, basically. The Manta Ray is in his one, and the Hammerhead Shark over here is in his ultimate. So that one has a lot of style points and also a pretty cool voice pack to go along with it. And last but not least, we have Chibi Amaterasu. Well, for those who like it. And with that, let's listen to the voice packs as usual. If you're watching this with your headphones on, you may want to turn it down a little bit. It could be a little louder. We'll see.
It is time we celebrate our differences. How about a joust to the death?
We are here now, and there is no hope left for any of you!
Oh, Warp Tech doesn't work yet.
Apparently, we are up against very wealthy aristocrats. We are talking gold, mountains of it. I'm sure they won't mind if we take some.
Though my powers are stronger in the ocean, I'm still pretty powerful on land.
Don't worry, the sun will never set as long as I'm around.
Alright, and with that, we have our adventure. Classic Joust. It's basically just a little bit of a polished version of the old Joust map that I know a lot of you are very familiar with and love. If you don't know the Joust map, I don't need to say much about it. You will get to know it when you play it. It has a few more buff camps at the outside, a little bit of a different layout. The Phoenix is a lot more protected, and the Titan is less protected in return. You can actually burn it through the wall, and that's all you need to know for now, and you'll figure out the rest. So it's definitely a fun mode. I don't think it was ever really balanced, but doesn't matter. We're playing it for the fun as an adventure. And you get a lot of stuff. You have a Royal Champion bundle where you get the Village skin, as well as a Recall skin, a Globally Immortal music theme, and titles. You can get the Sir and Dame titles for the adventure. I actually thought you have to unlock them, but you actually just get them for the bundle apparently. And you also get a gold key. And then we have a bunch of new cosmetics. We have the cutesy Janus avatar, Smite Prime avatar, Portal Jump Stamp, which looks like the portal from the new Janus skin, Royal Champion avatar, Royal Champion loading frame, and Royal Champion loading screen. Also, the jump stamp is a little bit smaller, so it doesn't look like an actual portal. There are Crystal Colossus Emirs in the Awesome chest now, and the Godlike chest gets Kukulkan, Khan, Solstice, Hell, and Star Lancer and her. And in the Fantasy Point store, we now have Queen's Guard Erlang Shen, Super Chronos 64, and Devil Horns Rangin. And we also get bug fixes, where Pele would hear her drum sound too much, or multiple times. I had that bug, it's very annoying, so good, that's fixed. A weird interaction between Daji and Kumbhakana Old Witch, which actually pinball you across the whole map. And the Pyromancer's attack chain not resetting properly. There's a spectator fix as well, and there are some UI fixes. I don't think I need to go through these all in detail. And then there are some specific fixes for console for the UI as well. And there are quite a few audio fixes once again for volume adjustments, primarily with the voice packs. In this case, it's Primal Huntress Artemis, Super Chrono 64, Panzerwurst, Kukulkan, Squirrel Squad Red Tusker, and Madame Blade Sir Cat. And Then there's some ability adjustments as well for Violet Lord Thor Ultimate, Geek Beak Thoth not using the intended audio, and Primal Fire Ares on his 2 and 4 to more accurately reflect the ability actions. And that brings us to the guard fixes. That's Ao Kwang had an undirected interaction with Ymir Wall during his ultimate, Achilles an issue where his shield will get stuck floating near him, Athena's taunt and not highlighting enemies properly, Naja had an issue where he could basically get stuck in his ultimate and just be CC immune, and the other player would then, when Naja dies, the other player would get teleported to where he was ulted. Really weird glitch, so fixed. Deathbane targeter issue on Redskin for Saket, that's fixed now, and Susano had a lag performance issue on his 1, that's also fixed. And that brings us to item balance, and the first one is already an interesting one. Blackthorn Hammer is getting a tweak, mostly a buff, I would say. Increase the health from 350 to 450. So, extra 100 HP on this item. And I think that should make it at least one of the, if not the highest health item in the game. I don't think we currently have a 500 health item, at least not from the top of my head. I would have to check back, but yeah. And at the same time, the physical power on the item is decreased from 30 to 25, but that's, yeah, okay, I guess, 5 less power. I think Blackthorn Hammer gets value just through the sheer amount of health you get from this item now. So I'm thinking like something combining it with Height of the Urchin, or especially with items that don't have any natural health, like Spirit Movement of Discord could lead to a very interesting mix of effective defensive stats while still giving you decent stats otherwise. The cooldown reduction isn't bad or anything. I'm kind of seeing a bit of a spot for it in solo on warriors around 3rd slot. So specifically against magical targets. So you go into a magical defense item, like whatever, Genji's guard, or really depending on the god, and then go into Blackthorn for a lot of effective health, but also something that helps you more against any other attacker, and then maybe Height of the Urchin for more overall survivability. It's still a bit of a risky choice, I guess, because it's still an aggressive choice with the power on the item, but with 450 health, it's really, you can't really call it an aggressive choice as a whole anymore, and I think that's interesting. Then there's Silver Branch Bow, and that's weird. It's now a tier 3 item. It builds from Hunter's Bow. It has 20 physical power, 25% attack speed, and 10 physical penetration. Now these stats are not bad for the price, but they're also not insane for the price. Just if you want to compare, look at the Crusher. That's stat-wise around the same spectrum, or price-wise, and I think has a decent amount of higher stats overall. I'm not entirely sure on all the stats from the top of my head. I think it's 30 physical power, 20% attack speed, and 15 penetration or something. We'd have to check what is exactly, but I think it's more value than you get out of Silver Branch Bow overall here. And that's it. So Ikaival, in most regards, should be the better choice for trading. In return, this item gets a very different passive. The passive is for each 0.02 attack speed you go over cap, so 2.5, you gain 1 physical power. So if you would go to 2.6 attack speed, you instead go to 2.5 plus 5 physical power. Now, this is awkward. And this is awkward because the item stats of this item scream early game, right? You get a bit of power, a bit of attack speed, and a bit of penetration. That is an early game item. But the passive screams absolute late game. In absolute late game, an investment into an item that is, well, based on physical penetration, 10 physical penetration, is rather weird. I think there may be uses for it. I'm thinking Steroid Hunters, Apollo, Ram, Artemis, Chernobog, whatever. There's a few more, and I'm thinking maybe also Assassins, or more specifically Bakasura. Especially Bakasura comes to mind here because he has this situation where you kind of want to build up to 2.5% attack speed, but then at the same time you have your passive, you have your interactions that lead to you having more attack speed in some situations after getting a kill, after getting a million kill or whatever. So instead of getting, or instead of wasting stats here, you can effectively make use of these stats still if you have Silver Branch Bow. At the same time, the conversion rate here is not that great. 10% attack speed result in 5 power. Technically, or not really. Again, it depends on on the base stats of your character and whatnot. So it can be better, it can be worse, but it should be around that for most gods. So it's a very in-between thing. I think it's gonna be hard to find a suitable niche for this, but it's gonna be fun figuring it out at least. But in the long run, I doubt we will see like full effectiveness out of this, or at least I can't really see the build that allows for that yet. But I'm happy to be proven wrong here and see what wonky stuff could work out with this item. But again, overall, the base stats of the items are not insane for the price. And then we have guard balance. Einherjar gets buffs, and these are not to be underestimated. Because Einherjar gets 2 buffs, both to Desert Fury, because Desert Fury is really not a late game ability overall. And the base damage gets increased by 10 across all ranks, and the scaling gets increased by 10. That would not sound like much if it wasn't for the fact that Einherjar has 8 hits. So you get 80 base damage, which is a pretty decent amount in early levels, on level 5 especially, early levels especially. And at the same time, you also get 80% scaling in late game. That is if you hit all shots, and it's still just one basic attack essentially. But considering how quickly he shoots them and that they go through walls or go through anything really, I think that's value in this. I think this will really push his late game and make it worth using the ultimate in late game for something other than CC immunity as well. Baron Samedi gets some further nerfs. I'm a bit surprised about what kind of angle these nerfs have here, but well. One part is life of the party decreased hysteria per hit from 8 to 5. I was actually expecting the percentage health to damage to get reduced. And this means that he will not pull you as quickly as well, because he pulls you faster when you're above hysteria threshold, and it will take longer to get above hysteria threshold, as it's only 5 instead of 8 per tick. But that also means, if you're playing Baron Samedi with Spear of the Magus, as you should, that you'll actually have an easier time applying more stacks during the ultimate, as it'll be more likely that the enemy is stuck in your ultimate a little bit longer if they can't get out. So if somebody doesn't have an escape, doesn't have immunity, that just comes up in that very time frame, then they will still get pulled, only that they will take more damage, and they have more time to return damage onto you if they want to. But really, who's looking to return damage onto somebody while they're getting pulled, unless somebody's super low? And the self-slow is also increased from 40 to 60%. That is probably more relevant, because what you could do at the moment, at least at max level, is you could use your 2 above hysteria threshold if it all worked out in your favor, and you could get the movement speed boost and use your ult and move at the same speed. And you can't do that anymore. You would still move 20% slow now. Or you could also very well utilize your allies' sprint for that. I had a really funny situation the other day there where I used sprint, and my ally suddenly just zoomed towards the enemies and used this ult, and they couldn't really get away from him. So these nerfs will not really change all too much, I think. They will definitely affect his speed in the ult a little bit, but if he catches you before the ult, which is how you want to use the ult anyways, unless you're me and you completely mess up, then yeah. You might actually, depending on the god, benefit a little bit more, or he might suffer a bit more, but nothing drastic in either direction. Kronunos. Wild Hunt decreased mana cost from 100 to 140 to 100 all ranks. Yeah, good. No reason for that to scale that high. Chernobog has been doing a little bit too well. I guess yet another nerf, I think. I think this is not the first one. So the attack speed decreased before and stuff like that. Crystallized Curses decreased base damage from the initial hit from 70 to 190 to 70 to 170. So more of a late game scale, or late game base reduction, or rather middle of the laning phase base reduction. That's the more important part. I can see that. I can see why that was done. Takes away a bit of the pressure and everything. Yeah, I don't think it's too drastic. 5 per rank. It's okay. Living Nightmare decreased mitigation scaling from 20 to 40% to 10 to 40%. So a little less mitigation early on. I still think the upper end here is the weird part. I don't think he needs 40% mitigation in the first place. I think 30% would be absolutely fine. But, well, okay. It's a nerf anyways, and it's gonna turn down his early mitigation a little bit. Fenrir. Unbound Runes now gains 3 runes for getting an assist. So 3 runes on top of whatever runes you have. This is kind of cool because it helps with the ultimate and stuff, with the stun and stuff, with the setup, or even with the AoE damage sometimes. But at the same time as Fenrir. Like, Fenrir is really not in the best place. I'm sorry to say that, but I think the meta is not favoring Fenrir at all. Fenrir does not have insane clear from the start of the match. His clear builds up when he's got his runes up and uses his 3, and you can use his 1 for clear as well, obviously, but then sometimes you don't want to use the 1 because you don't want to waste the runes, or generally you always have the issue with the runes and blah, blah, blah. It's annoying for Fenrir to get through the early, and in late game others just do the job that he's supposed to do better than him right now as well. Like, especially I think Daji is somebody who kind of in many ways does similar things to Fenrir, but can pick out enemies from a safe position instead of having to go in like Fenrir does. He obviously does the job of a hybrid character a little bit better, but might as well play a warrior in jungle if you want that. So yeah, I think it's not really going to change anything for Fenrir, even though it is a nice improvement for him. Pele gets some buffs. Now, Pele was originally nerfed on PTS, then released, and now she's getting some buffs again because she's actually not doing all too hot. The first part here is her base health increased from 440 to 460, just a little bit more early game potential. Second part, Pyroclast decreased cooldown from 14 to 13 seconds. Keep in mind this goes for both projectiles, essentially. So it could, depending on how you want to look at it, it's a 1 or 2 second decrease. In most situations, it would still end up being a 1 second decrease anyways. But good to be aware of that. And Magma Rush increased movement speed from 20% to 30%. I completely expected the opposite to happen. I expected the delay of the 2 to be decreased a little bit, just a little bit. And I expected the ult to get adjusted so that the basic attacks on the ult aren't as weird. The opposite happened. I don't mind. I don't think this is going to drastically change anything about Pele overall. And we'll see where she goes from here. Naja, Righteous Spirit decreased base power from 1 per stack to 0.5 per stack. Good. He was just too good as of late. Just stomping and giving him that nerf, tuning down his early game a little bit. Absolutely fair. Absolutely fine. Might still be very strong anyways because of all the benefits he has right now. Thoth. Glyph of Pain, this ability no longer triggers any item effects. This was specifically triggering Soul Reaver in basic attacks, and that was very annoying. So, yeah. Mostly a high level of play thing, apparently. That's it for Thoth. But that's okay. I don't mind. I don't think it's going to drastically change the character for other players outside of the high level. I don't think this is something that was very much utilized at lower levels of play anyways. And that's it for these patch notes. Thank you, voice. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, feel free to stop by the bell. It really helps me out. And other than that, I hope to see you all for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth out.